G'day guys, welcome back to Reach Me or Teach Me. Saw this video the other day and threw it into my watch later list, the smartest hitters in baseball history. The title just really intrigued me. I know a little bit about baseball, but the cerebral aspect to hitting is something that intrigues me. Again, with cricket, we've got the ability to hit the ball 360 degrees, so you can get quite creative. You can scoop the ball behind you, you can uppercut it, you can do all sorts of different things. But in baseball, it's like, what can you actually do cerebrally as a batter? So I'm very curious to see and open my eyes to what the mental side of batting is in baseball. So without further ado, folks, let's get into it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all of that stuff.
Oral Hershiser once said of the late, great Tony Gwynn that sometimes it felt like he had a steering wheel on his bat and he could put the ball exactly where he wanted. Another great pitcher, Greg Maddux, explained his approach to pitching to the savvy slugger Barry Bonds this way: "You walk Barry, just walk him." Carl Yastrzemski once said of another legendary hitter, Ted Williams, that, quote, "he studied hitting the way a broker studies the stock market and could spot at a glance mistakes that others couldn't see in a week." There's not much more infuriating or awe-inspiring in the world of baseball than a true genius in the batter's box. Facing some of Major League Baseball's smartest hitters is a daunting task. These players have spent years perfecting their craft. They know the strike zone inside and out. They're able to pick up on subtle changes in a pitcher's delivery and can recognize pitches right out of the hurler's hand. They have exceptional hand-eye coordination and can hit the ball with pinpoint detail wherever it's pitched. Put simply, they're extremely hard to get out. And you know what else they are? Amazing to witness. As a fan, as a player, but perhaps most frustratingly, as a pitcher.
And he's not shooting a testimonial for the toughness of that ice chest.
That's why today, we're going to be looking at some of the smartest hitters in baseball history and what exactly made them special. Hitter number 1, Tony Gwynn. Perhaps no big leaguer has understood the art of hitting better than the San Diego Padres Hall of Famer Tony Gwynn, and that's because rarely anyone put in the hours that Gwynn put into hitting. It began with his preparation, and the tape. Lots of tape. Decades before big league hitters each had iPads stocked with video footage and analysis of at-bats, pitchers, and hitting mechanics, Gwynn recorded his games at home on his VCR to study his at-bats afterwards. He took his video cassette library on the road with him in a suitcase so he could study in his hotel room too. His teammates jokingly called him Captain Video. Eventually, Gwynn paid $85,000 of his own money to help the Padres install a then state-of-the-art video room in their clubhouse, so those skeptical teammates could have access to the same film he had been benefiting from since 1982.
Today's video is sponsored by Factor. User update 40 preferences is the option. Per week, you cook. $5. If you're for
umpires better than Gwynn. He also knew pitchers' tendencies so well that even when his teammates believed they had stolen the opposing team's signs, he refused to be told what was coming. He had a pretty good idea already, and it wasn't just his own swing that he knew. Once, when outfielder Al Martin joined the Padres, he started to hit the ball to the opposite field with power with a new open stance at the plate. He couldn't figure out what was going on, but Tony Gwynn knew, and showed him exactly what was happening. It had something to do with him staying on and not spinning off the ball, but I digress.
So he was like a very early day batting coach, using all the video analysis and everything. Good on him. So, okay, so obviously knowing your strike zone, that's a significant part of cerebral hitting. Knowing the pitcher's tells and their go-tos, if you'd like, their traits, that's obviously huge as well. But interesting that he reckoned he was basically, he had the call. He didn't need the calls. He didn't need to know what they're about to pitch because he already knew. Interesting. Okay. So he really spent a lot of time. I love the fact that he had this whole cassette library that he traveled around with. That was cool.
I'm no Tony Gwynn after all. Tony didn't hit for a lot of power, but he hit for location better than just about anyone. When asked where he wanted his 3,000th hit to go, he said he wanted it to be a hard ground ball between shortstop and third base, or the 5-5 hole, as he called it. That's where he made his living. Gwynn hit so many balls through that hole that he even wrote 5-5 on the tongue of his shoes as a daily reminder. He didn't end up notching his iconic hit there, but hey, when you've already tallied 2,999 big league hits, you get some slack with your predictions. Gwynn could place the ball where he wanted because he had phenomenal bat control. He achieved this in part because he used a small, light bat, which allowed him to wait back as long as possible before committing to a pitch. As a result, Gwynn rarely got caught in his front foot, and hardly ever got fooled by an offering, and Gwynn was extremely serious about the bats he used, and he took very good care of them. Incredibly, in 1994, the year he hit .394, he used one bat for most of the season. Gwynn even liked the factory where his bats were made, so he could hand-pick the billets of wood. He famously could close his eyes and identify his bat from any of his teammates, just by its feel. Gwynn...
There's a cricketer like that. There's a stupid little video running around on the socials at the moment. Steve Smith, who's an absolute, like, a bit like this. Like, he's the sort of guy that's just an absolute nuffy, is what we say. Just a cricket tragic. But he has, like, 25 bats. And he can close his eyes, and he's got them all numbered, and he can close his eyes and tell you what number that bat is just by picking it up and feeling it. So it's a crazy thought to the average Joe who just picks up a bat and swings and doesn't think twice about it.
Gwynn's vision was also legendary. He claimed it was 20/15. Gwynn simply could see things that other hitters couldn't, like a pitcher gripping a split-fingered fastball in his glove. Because of his sharp eye, his quick bat, his great hands, and his prodigious preparation, Gwynn hardly ever struck out. Gwynn never struck out more than 40 times in any season. This was in large part because he might have been the best hitter who ever lived when he had 2 strikes. Gwynn finished his career batting .302 in these counts, the best mark for any player since pitch count records began being tracked. The second highest average with 2 strikes behind Gwynn, Wade Boggs, a fellow 3,000 knock member, way down at .262. Wow. During his remarkable 1994 season, Gwynn batted an otherworldly .397 in 2-strike counts. There's not been a batting average within 20 points that since. Not in regards to 2-strike counts, mind you, but period. Hall of Famer Greg Maddux faced Gwynn 107 times during their careers. How many times did the great Maddux strike Gwynn out? 0. Not a single time. Not once. In a matchup of the professors, the hitter emerged with a superior grade. Maddux liked to say that if a pitcher can change speeds, every hitter is helpless, limited by human vision, except for that bleep Tony Gwynn. Hitter number 2, Ted Williams. If any hitter in history has been as fanatical as Tony Gwynn, it's Ted Williams. Teddy Ballgame didn't have the benefits of a VCR or video, but like Gwynn, he studied pitchers and was always looking for information that could give him an edge. In his 22-year Major League career, Williams accomplished things on the field, like an insane 42 lifetime on-base percentage that gave him a legitimate claim to being the greatest hitter who ever lived, which, according to Ted himself, was his goal from childhood. His sweet left-handed swing was not only a thing of beauty to behold, it was devastating to opposing teams. He was the last batter to hit over 400, and he slugged 521 career home runs, all while missing nearly 5 full seasons in his prime while serving as a pilot in World War II and the Korean War. Ted was fueled by a relentless pursuit of perfection. In an era well before today's data-driven video-watching athletes, Williams' scientific approach to hitting was unprecedented. He studied pitchers like they were butterflies under glass, knew their tendencies, even quizzed teammates about the pitches they received at the plate.
I have to respect it so much more too without the video analysis. Like, as someone who's played and followed a lot of sport, like I do lean on a lot of video. I was trying to teach my wife how to play something the other day, and I was videoing her action, and I was like, no, you need to have a look at the video so you can see where you're going wrong. It's one thing me describing it. For this guy to be able to do all of this, it's an amazing, incredible feat as far as his IQ, being able to sit there and study the pitches without having the video footage. That's incredible.
Williams had an exceptional grasp of the strike zone, seldom swung at a bad pitch, and would spend hours hitting. No one ever swung a bat more than I did, he once boasted. In his hometown of San Diego, Williams would sometimes bring a bucket of balls out to the local Little League field, and spend the entire day just knocking them around the park, getting a sense of where certain balls hit certain ways would travel. He would enlist local kids to pick them all up, and then do the whole thing again. In the latter part of his career, the shift became Williams' primary opponent. He tried to hit some balls the other way, and once even bunted the ball for a single in the World Series. Still,
Nice.
despite
I like
complaining
that.
that the shift cost him 20 to 30 points on his lifetime batting average, the stubborn slugger would not change the hitter he had spent a lifetime becoming. He hardly modified his approach at all, electing to instead hit into the teeth of the shift, daring the defense to catch his white-hot line drives, or simply knock it over the fence. That worked too. Williams shared some of his lifetime of hitting insights in the book The Science of Hitting, which became a hitting Bible of sorts for generations of sluggers that followed, including a Cincinnati Red making a bid to be the smartest hitter of his own generation. Hitter number 3, Joey Votto. Ever since he was a high school student in Toronto, Canada, Joey Votto has been a hitting fanatic and a devoted disciple of Ted Williams. He takes his well-worn copy of The Science of Hitting with him on road trips and still commonly reads it today. Votto has described his own hitting philosophy as, quote, coming up with a simple answer to a complicated event. This means having a plan built on hours of preparation, figuring out patterns of pitch usage based on the hurler and his unique pitch history. It means meticulously studying hours of video, scouting reports, and in modern times, StatCast data. It means being selective at the plate, avoiding balls even micro inches out of the strike zone. Votto's knowledge of said zone is nearly unparalleled today. It also means adjusting to pitchers who are adjusting to you. Votto's former teammate Deoner Navarro once said of him, most major leaguers make adjustments out to out. He's making them mid at bat. It's little wonder that Votto is already considered one of the smartest hitters in baseball history, mentioned in the same breath as greats like Tony Gwynn and Ted Williams, despite not even being retired yet. As the game has evolved in the past dozen or so years, Votto has evolved with it, from a time when pitchers were averaging in the high 80s on fastballs to now being knowledgeable about every advanced metric under the sun. Opposing teams used to try to shift to thwart the left-handed Votto. In 2017, the Chicago Cubs not only shifted the infield to the right side, but used a four-man outfield to try to stop him. Votto responded by hitting a hard shot down the right field line that eluded several of those shifted fielders. Joey Votto right now is ungodly, Cubs manager Joe Maddon remarked after the game. Today, Votto is about as close to shift-proof as you can get, even if that now is a relic of the past. His spray chart is a beautiful thing, and what's more, an evolving one. In response to his power dropping off in the 2019-2020 seasons, Votto proceeded to work on pulling more fly balls in the off-season. The result, a 2021 campaign in which he finished with the highest home run rate of his entire career. Above all else, what Votto does better than any hitter in recent history is get on base. His extremely high hitting IQ has helped him maintain a career OBP around 410, a number rarely seen in the modern game. Earlier in his career, he led the NL in OBP for 7 out of 10 years, between 2010 and 2019.
Very nice.
In 2017, the same year he almost won his second National League MVP, he walked almost twice as many times as he struck out. Votto's goal is to be a hitter without weakness, to be unpitchable as he puts it. That's getting harder as the 39-year-old ages, including as he battles through injury to get back to the diamond in 2023, but his smart approach is keeping him relevant and still in the game, long after many hitters from his era had to put away their lumber for good.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Like once you start to age and your reflexes and your reaction times, even your power starts to wane a little bit, everything just tapers off just that little bit. And we're talking elite sports here where every little bit counts. Great players can adjust. I'm really impressed with this dude as far as modern players.
Hitter number 4, Ichiro Suzuki. Some people were skeptical when the Seattle Mariners paid $13 million for the rights to a Japanese player named Ichiro more than 2 decades ago. And when he first arrived at spring training in 2001 in Arizona, the chorus of Suzuki's skeptics only grew. A slew of weak ground balls to infielders from the slim left-hander left many wondering if the Mariners had made a big mistake in signing the 27-year-old rookie. This included Ichiro's own manager, Lou Piniella, who told a Japanese journalist that if all went well, Suzuki might be a 280 hitter. During one spring training game that year, Piniella even asked Ichiro if he could drive the ball to right field. He responded by homering to right in his next at-bat. Piniella then left one of the smartest hitters ever to play this game to his own devices after that. And Ichiro responded, with 242 hits and a .350 average in his first season in the big leagues, winning both the Most Valuable Player and Rookie of the Year award, while the baseball world watched his every move in awe. 3 years later, Ichiro hit .372 and broke George Sisler's record for hits in a season with 262, a record previously thought to be untouchable.
Wow.
And for 10 consecutive seasons, he batted over .300 and delivered over 200 hits, setting setting a major league record for consecutive 200-hit seasons. Ichiro's uncanny hitting ability and intelligence began with an ability to take what the pitcher gave him, hitting the ball wherever it was pitched, while utilizing a slap-like swing that made it nearly impossible to throw him out at first base on anything but a hard ground ball right at an infielder. He not only led his generation in infield hits, but routinely racked up as many as 50 of them in a given season. Remember, his speed wasn't insane, simply above average, so this fact truly did speak to the intentional nature of his game. Ichiro could hit for power if he wanted, once stating he could have easily crushed over 40 homers a year if he had been allowed to bat .220, and sometimes demonstrated that during batting practice. But he knew as a leadoff hitter it was his job to get on base, swipe bags, which he did to the tune of over 500 in his career, and above all else, score runs. And he did all of that about as well as anybody. We will never know how many hits Ichiro could have had if he had started his career in the big leagues, but as it currently sits, over 3,000 hits in the show and over 1,000 in the MPB are, to put it mildly, nothing to sneeze at. Hitter number 5, George Brett. The last guy to bat nearly 400 in a full season, George Brett may have been one of baseball's best line drive hitters ever. The Kansas City Royals third baseman held America in thrall in the summer of 1980. That season, he seemed to hit everything he swung at, hard. Brett was hitting a good, but not historic 337 in June when he tore a ligament in his right foot, but that didn't stop him from impressing sports fans. While on the DL, Brett attended a golf tournament on crutches, greeting the participants as he approached the 18th green. When someone on the fairway hit a ball into the group putting on the green, Brett dropped his crutches, grabbed a putter, and hit the golf ball out of midair with the blade, sending it back up the fairway as onlookers stood in shock. It truly did seem like Brett could do anything in 1980. After returning from injury that July, he went on a 30-game hitting streak, reaching the 400 mark in mid-August, and as baseball fans watched on in disbelief, he remained over the 400 mark for over a month, not dropping under it until mid-September, eventually hitting 390, the closest any player has gotten to 400 since Ted Williams hit 406 in 1941. Brett also, unsurprisingly, led the league with a .454 on-base percentage that season and struck out just 22 times in 515 plate appearances. Brett's career as a hitter didn't start well. With a batting average of .205 and on the brink of being sent down to the minors in his first season in 1974, Brett started working with hitting coach Charlie Lau. The young third baseman had been a pull hitter with some big holes in his swing, but under Lau, he learned his classic drive the ball to all fields approach and saw his average reach .282 by the end of that season. In the ensuing years, Brett just got better and better. He was a throwback to an earlier time in many ways. He didn't wear batting gloves, opting for pine tar, he chewed tobacco, drank beer, stayed out of the weight room, and was one of the most competitive players in the game, and he never stopped hitting. In the end, Brett became one of only 4 players, with Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and Stan Musial, to rack up 3,000 hits, 300 home runs, and to post a career batting average of over 300. When asked how he would like his final at-bat in the major leagues to go, he said he wanted to hit a hard ground ball to the second baseman, and run as hard as he could to, quote, show the young guys on the team that this is how the game is supposed to be played. Hitter number 6, Barry Bonds.
Okay, we know Barry.
Barry Bonds' former teammate Rich Aurilia once said of the talented slugger, "The rest of us play in the major leagues. He's at a different level." And regardless of where you come down on the steroid issue, Barry Bonds was one of the all-time great hitters, and it began with his approach at the plate, not in the weight room. Bonds' intelligence in the box was always at an all-time ranking after all. Bonds' greatness began with his Williams-like patience. He waited for a pitch he could drive, even if it meant taking early count strikes. He knew he could afford to wait. No pitcher in his mind was going to get 3 strikes past both him and his catch the ball with the bat approach. That utter refusal to chase bad pitches, even when that was nearly all he was getting at one
broken bat homer, Big Barry
point, helped Bonds to a lifetime 444 OBP, the 6th best number ever. In 2004, the year he was walked 232 times at.
So, I've heard of Barry. I know of Barry. Obviously, I think just about everybody does. But I know of him as a brute hitter. That's sort of the what conjures up in your mind is this just big bomb hitter. I didn't realize he had such a high on base percentage.
At age 39, he had a jaw-dropping OBP of 609.
What?
Of the first 1,300 or so pitches Bonds saw that year, he swung and missed at just 49. Chew on that for a minute. One of the reasons for Barry's great eye was, well, his eyes. Dr. Bill Harrison, who tested the eyesight of big league ballplayers for 50 years, once said that Barry Bonds had no equal when it came to vision. He was the only player he ever measured who achieved 100% across each of the visual categories he tracked. Bond's patience, combined with his chemically aided power to all fields, made him the most intimidating player of his era, and perhaps of all time. With a choked-up grip and compact swing, when Bonds got the pitch he wanted, it was a thing to behold. He had the raw power of a Babe Ruth with the mechanical precision of a Ted Williams.
It's a beautiful
It was perhaps no
swing.
surprise that he
really
racked up
is.
more home runs and more walks than any other hitter in MLB history. So, what have we learned about how to hit a baseball from 6 of the most intelligent batsmen to play the game? First, you need to be seriously obsessed with hitting. Embrace its detail like your life depended on it. Every day is a chance to gather more data, improve your approach to the plate, and track opposing pitchers' tendencies. It starts with getting your pitch, and not helping the hurler with his, to know the strike zone better than the umpire. It helps to have immaculate vision and obscene hand-eye coordination. And it also helps to use the entire field, and hit it where they ain't, or just hit it well over the wall. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Please leave a comment below telling us which hitters you'd like to see featured in a part 2 of this series, and if this vid does well enough, we'll include your top suggestions. Now, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.
Alright, I don't know what to make of Barry. Again, with the whole juice side of things, I'm not a fan of any of that stuff, as far as anyone who juices up for sports. But what's upsetting is that I didn't realize he was such a clever, smart hitter of the ball. It's like he didn't need to do what he did. He could have had an incredible career, one of the greatest of all time, completely untarnished by all of the other stuff. He didn't need it. He was already one of the greatest. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got other videos like this that you think it might, something that opens up the cerebral side, again, I've seen some different pitch styles and things like that. I'd love to see some more strategy, because you guys in your sports are so incredibly detailed with your strategies and how all that side of things works. So, yeah, if you've got anything for baseball on that side of things, let me know. With all that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next one.